Hey everyone, and welcome back for another deep dive. Today we'll be exploring this fascinating concept of a unified human society.
Very exciting stuff.
It is, yeah. And our source material for this deep dive comes from excerpts of One Human Society, Unity, Social Security, and Peace,
Oh, interesting.
written by Sri Prabhat Ranjan Sarkar.
Okay.
And, so often we talk about a perfect world, but what we really want to explore in this deep dive is how we can actually create that.
Right.
So the author really dives into this idea of unity within diversity, offering some concrete steps that we can take towards building a healthier society.
Yeah, I think it's a refreshing take because so often we do get caught up in the differences, what makes us different from one another. And this author really focuses on what makes us similar.
Yeah, exactly. And I love how he tackles this idea of racial superiority.
Right.
Takes us all the way back to the beginning, reminding us that we all come from the same ancestor.
That's right.
It's a pretty incredible journey when you think about it.
It is. And as the author points out, leads to these fascinating adaptations.
Right.
He uses this great analogy of the Ganges River.
Okay.
Originating from a single source in the Himalayas, branching out into these numerous tributaries.
Right.
And just like that, the four main races, Aryan, Austric, Negro, and Mongolian,
Okay.
all emerged from that same ancestor,
Right.
adapting to different environments over time.
Okay, so that's a pretty powerful image, but what about those who still hold on to this idea of racial purity?
Well, the author tackles that too.
Yeah.
That's a myth.
Right.
Just look at the historical mixing of blood.
Right.
Filipinos, for example, Japanese, even many populations here in India
Yeah.
really show how interconnected we all are.
So it seems like what you're saying is all these external differences we tend to focus on, like skin color, facial features.
Yeah, he says
they
that.
really don't mean that much.
Yeah, it's just superficial adaptations to different environments, right?
Right.
But underneath it all, same basic instincts.
Okay.
Love, pain, hunger, thirst. Those core human experiences that we all share.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Really a reminder of our shared humanity.
It is, yeah, but if we're all so connected, why all the conflict? Why all the division? The author introduces this idea of negative attraction
Right.
to try to explain this.
That's where it gets really interesting.
Okay.
Because, it kind of flips the script on how we usually think about attraction.
Okay.
He says, attraction is the natural state of the universe. It's what holds everything together from tiny atoms to entire galaxies.
So you're saying everything is attracted to everything else.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But here's the twist. What we perceive as differences and conflicts in the external world are actually manifestations of this underlying attraction.
Okay.
He calls it negative attraction.
So our perception of separation, our focus on those things that make us different, is actually what's creating the conflict.
Precisely.
Okay.
Instead of fixating on what divides us, the author suggests we shift our focus towards cultivating unity.
Okay.
And he outlines 3 key spheres where this needs to happen.
Okay.
Socio-economic, psychosentimental, and spiritual-sentimental.
Let's unpack those a little bit.
Sure.
Starting with socio-economic unity.
Okay.
What does that even mean? Is he talking about some sort of socialist utopia where everyone's financially equal?
Not exactly.
Okay.
While the author is definitely passionate about social justice
Right.
and eliminating poverty, his vision is a little more nuanced than that.
Okay.
He believes that wealth is a common patrimony,
Okay.
meaning it belongs to all of humanity.
Interesting.
Right.
So how do we actually achieve that? Is it just about redistributing wealth?
It's more about ensuring that everyone has access to those basic necessities of life,
Right.
while also fostering economic growth and prosperity for all.
Right.
He even suggests some pretty practical ideas.
Like what?
Like dividing the country into socioeconomic zones instead of sticking to linguistic states, just to maximize efficiency
Right.
and ensure that everyone benefits from economic progress.
Okay, that makes sense.
Right.
All right, so what about psychosentimental unity?
Okay, so think about it this way.
Go ahead.
What binds people together? Shared language, cultural heritage, historical narratives.
Right.
These things create a sense of belonging, a shared identity.
Okay.
And the author believes we can tap into these powerful sentiments
Right.
to foster unity.
But can these sentiments really overcome deeper divisions.
That's a valid concern.
Yeah.
But he offers some pretty compelling examples.
I
He
think that-
talks about the deep love and respect that Indians hold for Sanskrit,
Right.
the root of most Indian languages,
Mhm.
and sees that as a unifying thread that connects these diverse cultures and traditions.
It's kind of like that feeling you get when you hear a song in a language you don't understand.
Yes.
But it still moves you emotionally.
Absolutely.
There's something very universal about that.
It is, yeah.
So the author argues we can use history,
Yes.
not just dry facts and figures,
Right.
but stories that inspire and uplift us to foster this sense of shared identity.
Exactly.
Imagine bringing the glorious past to life,
Yes.
drawing inspiration from ancient civilizations.
Exactly.
Like Mohenjo-Daro and Harappa,
Yeah, right.
celebrating our national heroes.
Yeah.
It's an inspiring vision, connecting with the best of our shared history and using it to build a better future.
Absolutely.
But the author takes this even a step further
He does.
when he introduces this spirituo-sentimental sphere.
That's right.
So what does he mean by spiritual unity?
He introduces this concept of Paramapurusa
Okay.
as the supreme father,
Right.
the source from which we all emanate.
Okay.
And he envisions the entire universe as our common homeland.
Wow.
A pretty breathtakingly expansive view.
It is.
Yeah.
Like when you see the Earth from space,
Yes.
suddenly all those divisions just seem so insignificant.
Precisely. So he believes that spiritual practice helps us expand our minds
Yeah.
to embrace this vastness,
Okay.
leading to that realization. One universe, one universal society.
So it's about recognizing that we're all interconnected,
Yes,
all part of this incredible cosmic web of existence.
exactly.
Okay, but what about all those external things that we were talking about earlier?
Right.
Things like food and dress and language, religion.
Yes.
How do we approach those in a way that fosters unity?
Well, the author tackles these differences head on and
Oh.
urges us to approach them with understanding and sensitivity.
Oh, great.
He starts with food and dress
Okay.
and points out the absurdity of trying to force uniformity on people
Right.
with such different cultural preferences.
Yeah.
Imagine forcing people in Bihar,
Yeah.
a region with all these rivers and lakes, to wear, the flowing robes of the Arabian desert.
Right.
Just wouldn't work.
Yeah. So it's not a one-size-fits-all approach.
Exactly. We have to recognize and respect diversity,
Mhm.
not try to erase it.
Okay, so what about language?
Language is another area where he offers some fascinating insights.
Okay.
He delves into the mechanics of language,
Okay.
outlining the 6 stages of expression,
Okay.
and highlighting that the first 4 stages are actually universal across all languages.
So you're saying that despite all the different languages we have,
Yeah.
there's a deeper level where they all share a common structure.
Exactly.
Wow, that's fascinating.
It is.
Okay.
It's only in the later stages, when thoughts are transformed into spoken words,
Ah,
that these variations arise.
Okay.
And this is where he makes this really powerful point
okay.
about the dangers of language suppression,
Right.
pointing to historical examples like the Sanskrit scholars
Yep.
trying to squash the Prakrit languages in ancient India.
Like, what happened to so many indigenous languages around the world?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Tragic loss of cultural heritage and identity.
You just,
So he believes that all languages should be respected and cherished, viewing them as different expressions of the divine.
Interesting.
Even cautions against arbitrarily imposing a single language, advocating for a world where linguistic diversity is celebrated
Okay.
and preserved.
Makes you wonder how much richer our world would be if we really embrace this.
Absolutely.
All right, so what about religion? I mean, that's been a major source of division.
Yes, he distinguishes between dharma,
Okay.
which is a universal path to the supreme,
Okay.
and religion,
Okay.
which he argues can often be based on fear, blind faith, and rigid rituals.
So he's making a distinction between the essence of spirituality.
Exactly,
Yeah.
and the often dogmatic structures that have been built around it.
Right, yeah.
So he critiques practices that rely on fear,
Okay.
blind obedience,
Uh-huh.
arguing that they can stifle critical thinking
Okay.
and create this breeding ground for prejudice and conflict.
Makes sense.
He's particularly critical of religious conversion,
Right.
viewing it as this coercive attempt to impose one set of beliefs on another.
So instead, he's advocating for this more open-minded,
Exactly.
respectful approach.
Yeah,
Okay.
one that focuses on the underlying unity that connects all spiritual paths.
Really thought-provoking stuff.
It is, yeah.
It's like he's urging us to look beyond all these surface differences
Right.
and really try to recognize those deeper connections that unite us.
He is, and he doesn't just stop there.
Okay.
He actually lays out this vision for what a healthy and unified society would look like.
Huh.
One that rests on 3 pillars:
Okay.
unity, social security, and peace.
So let's dive into these pillars.
Right.
Starting with unity.
Right.
What does he mean by that in this context? Is he just talking about everyone getting along?
It's much deeper than that.
Okay.
He emphasizes the importance of a common ideal.
Okay.
A shared vision that transcends those individual differences
Right.
and unites people around this higher purpose.
So finding that common ground, that shared aspiration.
Exactly.
Okay.
And he envisions a society that's free from these rigid social hierarchies
Right.
that create so much inequality and suffering, particularly here in India.
Right.
He talks about a casteless society
Okay.
where people are judged not by their birth or social status,
Right.
but by their character and contributions.
I love that.
Right.
It's about recognizing that inherent dignity
Yes.
and worth of every human being,
Absolutely.
regardless of their background.
Yeah.
He also calls for an end to capital punishment,
That's right.
arguing that it degrades society and
Yeah.
perpetuates that cycle of violence.
Yes.
Instead, advocating for restorative justice,
Uh-huh.
a system that focuses on rehabilitation and reconciliation.
That's more humane and compassionate approach.
Okay.
Right.
So what about Social Security? Is he talking about, government programs and safety nets?
Broader than that.
Okay.
He believes that true security comes from creating a just and equitable society where everyone feels safe and protected.
Right.
And that means eliminating all forms of injustice, whether it's economic exploitation,
Right.
sexual discrimination,
Right.
or racial prejudice.
So it's about creating a world where everyone has the opportunity to thrive.
Exactly.
Okay.
And one thing that really stands out
Yeah.
is his strong stance on women's equal status.
All right.
He completely rejects this patriarchal notion of
Okay.
women being subservient to men, advocating for their full participation in all aspects of society.
I like that.
Right.
All right. So we've talked about unity.
Yes.
We've talked about Social Security.
Right.
What about peace?
So he defines peace as the state of psychic equilibrium.
Okay.
He believes that true peace can only be achieved through spiritual practice,
wow.
which helps us cultivate inner balance and transcend the anxieties and conflicts of the external world.
So it's not just the absence of war or conflict,
Yeah.
the state of inner harmony.
Exactly. That we can cultivate.
Got it.
He encourages us to see spirituality not as an escape from reality,
Right.
but as this practical tool for navigating life's challenges with grace and wisdom.
So finding that inner peace allows us to approach the world with compassion and understanding.
Exactly.
And he emphasizes the importance of fighting against superstition
That's right.
and fear-based thinking,
Yes.
which he sees as these obstacles to peace and progress.
Major obstacle.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So it's about empowering people with knowledge
Yes.
and critical thinking skills.
That's right.
Okay.
To break free from these limiting beliefs
Uh-huh.
that often lead to division and conflict.
That makes sense.
So that brings us to a really awe-inspiring concept he introduces, the cosmic brotherhood.
Okay. I'm intrigued. Tell me more.
So this is where his vision really expands beyond the confines of our planet.
Right.
He calls for this global shift in consciousness, a recognition that we're all part of this single, interconnected cosmic family.
We're not just citizens of a particular country,
Right.
but citizens of the universe,
Exactly.
connected to all beings through this vast web of existence.
That's right.
It's a pretty amazing thought.
It is.
So he sees spirituality as this key to unlocking this awareness.
Yes, absolutely.
And as we deepen our spiritual understanding,
Yeah.
we can begin to transcend these boundaries of
Yeah.
nationality, race, religion,
That's right.
even our physical existence on this planet.
He challenges us to see ourselves as individual expressions of the same cosmic energy,
Very cool.
all part of the same grand unfolding.
Beautifully put.
So while embracing this cosmic ideal is crucial,
Right.
he reminds us that we also need to address the very real objective problems that are hindering our collective progress.
Right.
So he identifies 4 fundamental challenges
Okay.
that we must tackle to achieve this global unity.
And those are?
So the first one is the need for a common philosophy of life. He argues that this philosophy must go beyond mere materialism and encompass the spiritual, mental, and physical dimensions of human existence.
So it's about nurturing the whole person.
Exactly. Right. And he challenges those who view spirituality as irrelevant or even as a tool for oppression.
Okay.
He sees it as this vital component of a balanced and fulfilling life that provides us with that inner strength and wisdom to navigate life's complexities and contribute to the betterment of society.
So we're not just physical beings, but also mental and spiritual beings.
Yes.
And all three need to be nurtured for us to really thrive.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And the second challenge he highlights is the need for this shared constitutional structure.
Okay, so before you go any further,
Yes.
is he talking about a totalitarian world government?
No, not at all.
Okay.
What he envisions is more of a global framework for cooperation and coordination. A system that allows for diverse cultures and perspectives,
Right.
but while addressing those issues that affect us all.
Makes sense.
You think about challenges like climate change, poverty, and conflict.
Right.
Those require global solutions.
They do.
So he suggests creating autonomous units within this structure,
Okay.
each addressing specific regional or cultural needs.
Okay.
And he recognizes the need for a common language to facilitate communication. Even proposes English as that global lingua franca, while still stressing that local languages should be preserved.
Okay, so recognizing the need for global unity, but also the importance of preserving those cultural differences.
Exactly. A balanced approach.
Okay.
The third challenge he identifies is the need for a common penal code.
Okay.
You know, for a global society to function effectively.
Right.
There needs to be a shared understanding of what constitutes acceptable behavior.
So, like setting the ground rules for a global community.
Exactly.
Okay.
But he emphasizes that this penal code needs to be progressive, evolving with the changing needs and values of society.
So a more humane and forward-thinking approach to justice.
Precisely.
Okay.
And finally, we come to the fourth and perhaps most crucial challenge.
Okay.
Ensuring that every human being has access to those minimum essentials of life.
That's a big one.
It is a big one.
Food, clothing, shelter, healthcare, education.
All of those things.
It's about creating a world where everyone has the opportunity to live a dignified and fulfilling life.
Yes.
Free from poverty and deprivation.
Absolutely.
He believes that meeting those basic needs is not just a moral imperative, but it's essential for unlocking human potential.
It is.
And fostering a more just and harmonious world.
And this is where his socio-economic theory, known as Prout,
Okay.
offers this really compelling roadmap.
And remind me, what are the key principles of Prout?
Right. So Prout stands for progressive utilization theory.
Right.
And it proposes this dynamic and equitable approach to economics. Emphasizes preventing that excessive accumulation of wealth.
Right.
And advocating for that rational and equitable distribution of resources.
So it's about creating an economic system that prioritizes human well-being and environmental sustainability.
Precisely.
Okay.
Also emphasizes maximizing individual and collective potential.
So it's not just about providing for people's basic needs,
Right.
but also about creating conditions where they can flourish
Exactly.
and reach their full potential.
And lastly, it emphasizes the need for a dynamic system that adapts to those ever-changing needs and circumstances. Recognizes that there's no one-size-fits-all solution.
Right.
And economic policies need to be flexible and responsive to those unique challenges of each time and place.
So it's fascinating to see how he weaves together all these spiritual principles with practical solutions.
It is
for a more just and equitable world.
Absolutely. But after going into all these practical details, he circles back to his core message, reminding us that despite all our differences, human society is one and indivisible.
Don't get lost in the details.
Exactly.
Remember the big picture.
Right.
He reminds us that beneath all the surface differences, we are all interconnected.
We are.
All part of the same human family.
That's right.
And he urges us to remember, human society is a singular entity. It is indivisible.
And that's not just a philosophical concept.
Right.
It's a call to action.
A call to action.
An invitation to embrace our shared humanity. And work together to create a world that reflects this truth.
Powerful stuff.
It is. And, you know, we've only just scratched the surface of this author's ideas.
It seems like there's a lot more to explore.
There is.
So what else is he calling on us to do to make this cosmic brotherhood a reality?
Well, that's a journey for our next segment.
Oh, okay, can't wait. Stay tuned, everyone.
Stay with us. Welcome back, deep divers. Picking up where we left off, exploring this vision of a unified human society.
This idea of a cosmic brotherhood.
Yes. Remember, we talked about the author's compelling vision of humanity's inherent unity.
Right.
A world free from division.
Yeah, it was inspiring.
It is, but how do we move beyond just thinking about it?
Right.
And start actually living it?
Yeah. Does the author give us any concrete guidance on that?
He does. He absolutely does.
Okay.
And he reminds us that this journey begins with each of us individually.
Okay.
You know, we have to cultivate a sense of unity within ourselves first,
Right.
recognizing that each of us is like this microcosm of the larger human family.
Be the change you want to see in the world, right?
Exactly.
It all starts with us.
That's right.
Our own thoughts, attitudes, actions.
The author encourages us to take a good, hard look at our own biases and prejudices.
Okay.
You know, those ingrained patterns of thinking
Right.
that can so easily lead to division and conflict.
Yeah, absolutely.
He challenges us to question our assumptions about people who are different from us, whether those differences are based on race, religion, nationality, or anything else.
So stepping outside of our comfort zones.
Yes.
Our preconceived notions.
That's right.
And really trying to understand where other people are coming from.
Precisely. Developing empathy. Recognizing that beneath those surface differences, we all share those same basic human needs,
Right.
aspirations.
Yeah.
And this leads to a really crucial point, the need to eradicate exploitation in all its forms.
Okay.
He really sees exploitation as this root cause of much of the division and conflict we see in the world today.
Whether it's economic exploitation, social injustice, or the suppression of individual rights.
That's right.
It's all about those in power taking advantage of others.
Exactly.
So he's calling for a radical shift in values.
Yes.
Okay.
Moving away from that system that prioritizes profit over people towards this more equitable and compassionate approach.
Okay, so what does that look like practically? What can we do?
Well, for starters, we can be mindful of our own choices. Okay,
Yeah.
where do we spend our money?
Right.
Who are we supporting with our purchases? Were we aligning our actions with our values?
Yeah, that's a good point.
And beyond that, we can get involved in our communities, advocate for policies that promote fairness and justice,
Right.
support organizations that are working to create a more equitable world.
It's about recognizing that we're not just passive observers.
Exactly.
Right. We're active participants.
We have a role to play.
Yeah, okay.
And remember, it's not just about changing external systems. It's about transforming our inner world as well.
Right.
He reminds us that cultivating that inner peace and harmony is essential for building a more peaceful world.
So how do we cultivate that inner peace?
He encourages us to explore those practices that resonate with us, whether it's meditation, yoga, prayer, or simply spending time in nature.
Okay.
It's about nurturing that inner sense of peace and connection.
Okay.
And allowing that peace to radiate outwards, positively influencing our interactions with others.
Love that image.
But what about those seemingly insurmountable barriers that divide us?
Right, like national borders,
Exactly.
linguistic differences.
You know, he talks about these.
Yeah.
And he's particularly critical of the concept of nationality,
Okay.
highlighting how arbitrary
Right.
and often manipulated it can be.
Remember his example of those towns, Jessore and Bongan?
Oh, yes.
How people's nationality literally changed overnight
Right.
because of political decisions.
Because of where they drew the line on a map.
Yeah.
Absolutely bewildering.
It's crazy.
And it really illustrates how those lines we draw on maps can have such devastating consequences for real people's lives.
It makes you realize how much suffering is caused
It does.
by these artificial divisions.
Exactly.
Okay, so what's his solution?
Well, he proposes something pretty radical.
Okay.
The abolition of passports and visas.
Wow. That's a bold statement.
It is.
You know, really challenging the status quo.
It is.
So what's the alternative?
He envisions a world where people can move freely across borders,
Okay.
experiencing different cultures,
Right.
connecting with people from all walks of life,
Yeah.
recognizing our shared humanity.
Yeah.
And he believes that this kind of freedom would foster understanding, break down prejudice,
Right.
and strengthen the bonds of the cosmic brotherhood.
I mean, it's a beautiful vision,
It is.
but is it realistic?
I think those are valid concerns.
Yeah.
And the author acknowledges that such a change would require this major shift in consciousness. It would require a leap of faith, a trust in our shared humanity, a willingness to embrace the unknown.
It makes you think.
Uh-huh.
What would it take for us to reach that level of trust and understanding?
It's a question worth pondering, but even if abolishing passports and visas seems like this distant dream, there are steps we can take right now to move in that direction.
Like what can we do?
Well, we can support organizations that are working with refugees and immigrants, helping to create more welcoming and inclusive communities and challenging xenophobic attitudes wherever we encounter them.
But building bridges, not walls.
Exactly.
Right.
Recognizing that our world is enriched by diversity.
Yeah.
And he also reminds us of the importance of respecting and celebrating linguistic diversity. He cautions against the suppression of languages, recognizing that deep connection between language, identity, cultural survival.
Every language is a treasure trove of knowledge, culture, and history.
It is, yes.
Losing a language is like losing a whole world.
Exactly. So we need to cherish the richness and beauty of different languages, encourage multilingualism, and work to protect those languages that are at risk of disappearing.
It's about fostering a world where every voice is heard.
Yes.
Where every culture is celebrated.
Yes.
And where our differences are seen as threads that weave together the rich tapestry of humanity.
Beautifully put. And after laying out these practical steps, the author once again brings us back to his core message. The inherent unity and indivisibility of human society.
Don't get lost in the details. Remember the big picture.
Exactly. He reminds us that beneath all those surface differences, we are all interconnected, all part of the same human family. And he reminds us human society is a singular entity. It is indivisible. And that's not just this philosophical concept. It's a call to action.
Call to action.
An invitation to embrace our shared humanity. And work together to create a world that reflects this fundamental truth.
Powerful stuff.
It is.
This has been an incredible journey.
It has.
We've explored some really profound ideas, considered some practical ways to bring them to life. Inspiring to think about what's possible. When we embrace this shared humanity and work together to build a better future.
And the author's optimism is contagious.
It is, yeah.
Even in the face of some pretty daunting challenges.
Yeah.
He maintains this unwavering belief in our capacity for love, compassion, and unity.
Absolutely. And that's a message I think we all need to hear right now.
We do.
So he's challenging us to dream big.
Yes.
To think outside the box.
Absolutely.
And to never give up on the possibility of a more just and harmonious world.
That's what this cosmic brotherhood is all about, isn't it?
Yeah.
Recognizing our interconnectedness, embracing our diversity, working together to create a world where everyone can thrive.
A world where everyone can thrive. So much to think about.
A lot to unpack.
Yeah, but that's going to have to be a conversation for our next segment.
Stay tuned. There's more to come.
All right. Welcome back to The Deep Dive, everyone. We've explored so much already in this conversation about a unified human society.
Yeah, a lot to consider.
It is. And we've talked about, the challenges, the principles, and some steps we can even take.
Yeah.
But in this final part, let's really dig into how we can put this cosmic brotherhood into action.
It's exciting, isn't it? Taking this grand vision and really grounding it in reality.
Yeah.
And he gives us some great starting points. Once again reminding us that it all begins with each of us. We have to embody that unity that we're seeking. So he encourages us to examine those biases and prejudices that we all carry within us. Those subtle ways we judge and categorize people. Based on those superficial differences. It's about recognizing those patterns within ourselves. And actively working to change them.
So cultivating that open and accepting mindset.
Yes. Willingness to see beyond those superficial differences. And recognize that shared humanity beneath.
Makes sense.
And that leads to another important point. Addressing exploitation. He's very clear that exploitation in all its forms is a major obstacle to unity.
It creates divisions, resentment.
It does.
Undermines our shared humanity.
It undermines it, yeah.
So it's about creating a world where everyone has the opportunity to thrive.
Yes.
Everyone's basic needs are met.
That's right.
And no one is exploited for the benefit of others.
Absolutely. And that means taking action on multiple levels.
Like what?
Well, we need to be mindful of our own choices.
Right.
Supporting those businesses and organizations that align with our values. We need to advocate for policies that promote fairness and justice.
Okay.
And we need to challenge those systems and structures that perpetuate inequality.
It's about recognizing that we all have that role to play.
Yes, we do.
In creating a more just and equitable world.
We do.
While we're working to transform these external systems,
right,
we also need to remember to cultivate that inner peace within ourselves.
That's right.
Like we were talking about earlier.
Exactly.
Do the change.
That's right.
So he encourages us to explore those spiritual practices that help us connect with that deeper sense of peace within.
Whether it's meditation, yoga, prayer, or spending time in nature.
Right, yeah.
It's about nurturing that inner stillness and connection.
At that place of peace, we can then interact with the world with more compassion and understanding.
And he tackles some of those big barriers.
Right.
Like national borders and linguistic differences.
Yeah, like how he talks about Jessore and Bongan.
Oh, yes.
Where people's nationality changed literally overnight.
It's such a powerful reminder.
It is.
Of how arbitrary those lines on a map can be.
Yeah.
And how much suffering those divisions cause.
It's amazing how much human potential is wasted.
It is.
When we limit ourselves by these boundaries.
So what's his solution?
Yeah, what is it?
Well, he proposes abolishing passports and visas.
Wow. That is huge.
It is a paradigm shift.
It is. It's hard to imagine in the world we live in today.
But imagine the possibilities.
Yeah.
A world where people can move freely, experience different cultures, connect with people from all walks of life, recognize our shared humanity.
Our differences become strengths, not threats.
Exactly.
But is it achievable?
Well, I think those are valid questions.
Yeah.
And he acknowledges that such a change requires a shift in consciousness.
Right.
It requires a leap of faith.
Okay.
A trust in our shared humanity.
Right.
And a willingness to embrace the unknown.
Letting go of fear and control.
Yes.
Embracing the interconnectedness.
A bold step towards that cosmic brotherhood.
It would be.
It would.
Even if it seems like a distant dream.
Yeah.
What can we do right now?
We can support organizations that are working with refugees and immigrants.
Okay.
Create those welcoming and inclusive communities. Challenge xenophobic attitudes.
Building bridges, not walls.
That's right.
Recognizing that diversity enriches our world.
Absolutely. And he reminds us about linguistic diversity.
Right.
Cautions against the suppression of languages. Understanding that deep connection between language, identity, and cultural survival.
Every language holds so much.
It does.
Knowledge, culture, history.
So we need to cherish that richness and beauty.
Okay.
Encourage multilingualism. Work to protect those languages that are at risk.
So fostering a world where every voice is heard.
Yes.
Every culture is celebrated.
Absolutely.
Differences are seen as threads that weave together this tapestry of humanity.
Beautifully said.
So after he lays out all these practical steps, he brings us back to his core message.
Right. Back to the core.
Human society is a singular entity. It is indivisible.
Never lose sight of that fundamental truth.
Okay.
No matter how challenging the path.
It's a powerful message of hope and possibility.
It is.
A reminder that we are not alone.
We are not.
Part of something much bigger.
We are all connected.
We can create a world where everyone can thrive.
This deep dive has been quite a journey.
It has.
We've explored some profound ideas.
We have.
And considered how to bring them to life.
Yeah.
Inspiring to think about what's possible.
I think the author's optimism is contagious.
I agree.
Even when facing big challenges.
Yeah.
He believes in our capacity for love, compassion, and unity.
He does. He absolutely does.
A message we all need to hear.
We do.
So he's challenging us to dream big.
Yes.
Think outside the box.
Yeah.
Never give up on the possibility of a more just and harmonious world.
That's what it's all about.
Cosmic brotherhood.
That's it.
Recognizing our interconnectedness.
Yeah.
Embracing our diversity. Working together.
A world where everyone can thrive.
Well, on that note, we come to the end of our deep dive, but this conversation doesn't have to end here.
It doesn't.
Keep exploring these ideas. Think about how you can put them into practice.
Yes.
Share them with others.
Absolutely.
Building a better world starts with each of us.
It does.
And together,
we can
make a difference.
We can. Thanks for joining us.